Transgender healthcare for kids is a fast-growing medical specialty. In the U.S., dozens of clinics promote a single approach known as gender-affirmative treatment.
And it's just amazing how quickly this phenomenon has kind of arisen, and then how extensive it is. It went from nothing to 45, and they're at the most elite institutions.
And it's catching many parents off guard.
She came into the kitchen one night when I was cooking dinner and just told me, "Mom, I'm transgender. I'm a boy."
The U.S. Professional Association for Transgender Health wrote the U.S. Surgeon General last year, claiming consensus among providers over the treatment. But a small group of pediatricians who specialize in hormones are raising serious concerns. Dr. Paul Roos is one of them.
We really have no long-term data in using this intervention in children. What we do have are short-term studies that have very serious weaknesses and limitations.
Roos is a pediatric researcher at the Washington University School of Medicine, who is worried about the long-term health of kids who receive gender-affirmative treatment. The first step, known as social affirmation, can begin as early as 3 years old.
So rather than questioning somebody who asserts a gender identity that's not in agreement with their sex, that one actually supports that individual.
That support can include allowing children to cross-dress, use new pronouns, and enter opposite-sex bathrooms. The next step, puberty blockers, can start as early as 8. Advocates say they buy time for children to think through changing their gender and help to prevent suicide related to distress around gender. Dr. Roos says that while statistics show this might work in the short term, there's no evidence these blockers curb suicidal thoughts in the long term.
What's most concerning is that if you look at what data is available in these children that are given this gender-affirming approach, that the suicidal ideation remains markedly elevated.
And he questions whether preventing a key developmental stage like puberty is good science.
Maybe the parallel is if a child has a math exam next week and you tell them that they don't need to take it, that's going to relieve their anxiety about the test. But have you really helped that child?
If a child persists in questioning their gender identity, this gender-affirmative treatment calls for prescribing cross-sex hormones and even surgery when children reach 18. But studies like this one show that, in fact, surgeons are performing double mastectomies on teenage girls. The combined whammy of puberty blockers plus cross-sex hormones can take a huge hit on adolescent bodies, starting with infertility.
It's expected that the outcome is to result in lifelong sterility. So you're taking away a child's fertility at an age when they really don't have an understanding of what they're giving up.
There's also research that shows increased risk of stroke and metabolic changes that can lead to heart attacks, diabetes, and weakened bones.
Puberty is a very important time for accruing bone density, and that if that is interrupted, the children are going to be at risk of osteoporosis and fractures later in life. And the question that needs to be asked is, if this turns out not to be a good approach, how many children are going to be harmed?
Unbelievably, these medical interventions could be totally unnecessary. Even the World Professional Association of Transgender Healthcare acknowledges research showing that most children with gender issues will outgrow it before adolescence. Just last month, the United Kingdom's National Health Service quietly changed its guidance on these interventions. Little is known about the long-term side effects of hormone or puberty blockers in children. It is not known what the psychological effects may be. It's also not known whether hormone blockers affect the development of the teenage brain or children's bones. The action may have been fueled by the protests at a London transgender clinic. As the Telegraph reports, 35 staff have resigned in the last 3 years, concerned about overdiagnoses of gender dysphoria in kids. Dr. Roos acknowledges the tough road that parents of children struggling with their gender face. He encourages them to support their kids and be cautious about the affirmative approach. They can also consider counseling to understand psychological factors that may be present, or a wait-and-see approach, knowing that their child may outgrow their distress.
Parents often understand. They're looking at the best interests of their children. They know their children. They love their children. And they don't want to do anything, to harm their children. Parents being educated about what is really known and what is not known about this condition and what the alternatives are, I think can help them in making those decisions.
Decisions that can influence their child for a lifetime. Heather Sells, CBN News.
And let me underline that last line, for a lifetime. These decisions do impact that child for their lifetime. So when you're 8 years old and you're having questions, is that time for a medical intervention? And let's block the normal progression of your hormones. Let's start tinkering with your body's chemistry. And then in your teen years, let's do something very serious. Let's have some radical surgeries. Well, if you buy into the argument that gender is fluid, one of the byproducts of that argument is, well, the gender identity could change back. And if you've interfered with that, with hormone intervention and with surgery at a point in time where this individual is still a child, which means they don't know who they are, they don't really know their identity, have you impacted them for a lifetime that they may regret in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And one of the serious complications or results of this kind of thing is long-term sterility. So you essentially are saying to this individual, you will not reproduce. So are these things that medical professionals should have the decision? Should the child have the decision? Should the parents have the decision? These are all things we're going to grapple with as a culture.
Also, I mean, just from a common sense standpoint, who at the age of 8 has any concept of some of the long-term things we're talking about here? I mean, it can be the influence of somebody in their classroom who's maybe getting, going through this themselves and getting parental attention because of, kids are just so easily influenced by so much that's going on around them.
In my life, I was just past wanting to be a fireman. So you look at, what did you think when you were that age?
Yes.
And you can laugh at it now. But when you add to that medical professionals encouraging and trying to say, well, we're going to craft your hormones, I think we're getting to areas we really shouldn't get into. We're tinkering things we really don't know enough about, and there are long-term consequences. Hello, I'm Gordon Robertson. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more encouraging videos like this one. Welcome to the 700 Club Interactive family, and God bless you.